Welcome to the Well Off Podcast,
where the goal is to motivate, inspire, and share success principles. I'm your host, George Masri. On today's episode, I interview Jenn and Mike Richter from E Properties. They're members of the So Right Club and RAIN. They currently own 5 leased properties in Milton, and they've got 2 more coming from Southern Guelph. Their portfolio is built on the foundation of buy and hold properties. Now, they've been married for 5 years and they have 2 little girls who happen to be the driving force behind their acquisitions. Everything they do is for the kids. They started off that way, and you'll hear more about it in the upcoming interview. They believe that relationships are the foundation to long-term and successful businesses, and they are also avid travelers. Let's listen in.
The first thing, maybe I'll start by telling them a bit about what you do. You are a young couple. You've got 2 young girls. I won't do all the talking on your behalf, but you do specialize kind of in investing in pre-construction homes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's
Yep.
correct.
Right. And you've got the majority of your properties in Milton, Ontario. You've got 5 of them there, and you've got 2 that are coming up in Guelph.
Yeah, Southern Guelph.
Southern Guelph. Perfect. Is there anything else you want to add? Maybe a little bit about yourselves personally?
So right now we're using the buy and hold strategies with all our new builds.
Yep.
So as we purchase them, we're planning to hold them indefinitely for a long time.
Yeah, we do that, and it's the way we have it structured right now. I'm still working a full-time job, so I'm still bringing in the cash flow, right? Jen's a stay-at-home mom, so I mean, Jen's managing the portfolio throughout the day.
And the children.
Yeah, the way we have it right now, a lot's changed in the last year, but I'm doing more of the, let's say, the right brain thinking. I'm out, I'm networking, I'm sort of looking at the bigger picture. What can we do? What relationships can we build? How can we grow our business? The overall strategy. Jen's getting right up to speed with me doing that too, because her interest is just completely taken off, especially over the last year since we've been actively doing a lot more to brand ourselves. But Jen's awesome on the back end with all the details,
Technology,
the technology,
marketing,
the
branding.
writing. I mean, the paperwork, the stuff that I really
legals.
don't like to get into, the details. Jen's awesome with that. So it sort of gives us that relationship. It's like the jam and the jelly. We come together perfectly
It's yin
when
and
it
the
comes
yang.
to that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's what relationships are there for, not just personal, but business relationships.
Exactly.
You help each other with your weaknesses.
Yep.
Yeah. So before we get into all of the business and all that good stuff, can you tell us maybe about where you guys grew up, and maybe how you got started in investing, why you did it, and all that?
So I grew up in Mississauga, and my entire investing background has always been mutual funds, stocks. It was definitely my mother's generation that was pushing, you have to invest in mutual funds. When I was like 3, I opened a bank account. When I was 5, I got my first mutual fund. And I've always been investing that way until I met Mike. And he kind of introduced me to this whole concept of real estate, which was completely foreign to me and high risk.
And you know what? For me, the way I got started, I got started in Milton. I grew up in Milton. That's where my family grew up. From working class family. I watched my dad work a lot, and he would get our 2 weeks off a year. We'd take a vacation. It was never anything crazy. It was family oriented. But I realized something, if I kept doing the same things and followed in the same footsteps, I'd be safe and secure, but it wouldn't necessarily apply to the goals and things I wanted to achieve. So about 10 years ago, I went to one of these weekend boot camp real estate courses. And before that, I knew nothing about real estate. I literally thought real estate investing was owning your own principal residence. And I thought investing was apartment buildings, shopping malls. That's what I didn't realize there's a whole secondary market in actual housing that people could afford with very, very little money up front. So after that weekend, that was in 2006, it planted a bug in me, and I never really took action until 2007 when I purchased my own house to live in, to get actually just not as an investment, just to get away from my parents. That was my first actual home that I built by myself. And I did that. I lived in there, and I always had that itch. I didn't really have a big plan, but I knew I wanted to do it, but I knew nothing about investing other than what I'd sort of learned that weekend back in 2006. But what I did know about real estate and watching other people do it, I didn't have a big circle of influence. I didn't have a network. You'd know the odd person, your friend's dad who owned one for about 20 years. So you saw some people were doing it. But what I did realize is that the people who were doing it were doing well, but it was always on a small scale. And I did realize that, if I was going to make a difference in my life, I was going to have to own something more than just mutual funds. It's just like Jen, I was always told, work hard, save your money, put it away.
Be happy with a 5% return.
Be happy with the 5% return. And I can still go back. I remember almost 30 years ago when my dad would sit at the table the way we are now with a financial planner. And up until almost present time, he was always disappointed with the results. And I was doing that since I was young. We were putting money away. And it just wasn't giving us the returns that I felt I deserved for all the work I was putting out. And I knew that, if I was going to keep doing this my whole life, I would never get the returns that I wanted. So at one point I just became sick of it, right? So what I did is I decided, you know what, I'm going to do something different. So when Jen and I got married, you had your condo.
Yeah, in Mississauga.
When we got married, we decided to sell the condo, keep my townhouse as a rental. The money from that condo, we used that as well as our own savings to buy our own property. But the difference, this is the story, one of the life-changing moments that changed my life. When we decided to buy a house that was well within our means and not look at our house as a big, big asset, our primary residence, and a big, big investment, which in my sense, it's a liability. We keep putting money into it. When we bought something well within our means, that allowed us to keep my first property that I bought and turn that into a rental. Now, I knew nothing about investing at that time. I had no coach. I had no mentors. I had no network. We had an agent that had never done a lease. There's a lot of Googling. There's a lot of uncertainty. Mm-hmm. And I remember the anxiety I felt leading up to that. We had nothing. And I came close to the point of failing, and people, friends, family, they try to talk you out of it. It's risky, and it was risky. And I didn't realize how much risk we were in, but I'm like, well, if I don't stick with this, if I don't stick to what I said I was going to do, I'll sell it and I'll probably never do it again. So, everybody, thought it was crazy, but I did it. And after that was in September. In 2014, just a few months after that, we bought our own purpose-built property, right? So we did that, and that was the next big step we did. And that changed sort of everything in our lives, right?
So you talked a little bit about why you started investing and how you did it. So now that you have two young girls, are you investing to sort of maybe help them in the future? Are you thinking about all that? Or are you kind of going to let them do it on their own and figure it out by themselves?
So the girls are actually pretty much the primary reason I actually got on board with the whole real estate investing. Because when we had our first daughter, she was only a couple of months old, and we have the financial planner come to our house. She sits down. She's like, okay, you have a baby. You have to buy RESPs. And I'm like, great. Do your presentation. And she's like, wow, you're going to get 7% return. I'm like, wait, over 18 years? And you have control over my money? And you have a say when and how I take it out. And if I can transfer it to another kid if she doesn't go to university. And she's like, yeah, it's a great idea. And I'm like, oh, no, this is a horrible idea. So after that meeting, I was just like, this is not good enough for our daughters. Like, this is crazy. And like Mike said, we'd already had the one rental property. And I'm like, you know what? It wasn't as traumatic as I thought it was going to be. And we had a fantastic tenant, and it was going pretty well. So we kind of discussed, maybe we should buy a house for our 3-month-old baby. Mm-hmm. It was kind of a joke in the beginning. And then we were like looking at the numbers. This actually is way better than our ESP. So we went out and we actually purchased her first home. And the plan was to use the equity to pay for her university. If she's 18 and living at home, I have somewhere to put her now. Nobody lives in my basement. Mm-hmm. So that was really my big goal. And we had another little girl 18 months after that. And we're like, well, can't do second child syndrome. Got to buy her a house too. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of, so we had a third house. And it was kind of one of those jokes where just like, oh, we'll just get one more. Just one more. It's going well. It's not too bad. It's still affordable. And we're like, okay. So 4 is okay. Let's just get one more. And it was this big joke between us where it was like, it's just one more. It's just one more. Mm-hmm. And next, we have the 7 rental property portfolio. Yeah. So, but our thing is our girls are involved. When we said we bought them a house, it is their house, but it is also their responsibility. We always say, like, even though they're 3 and 2 right now, from the get-go, whether we're purchasing the house, they come with us. Whether we're designing the homes, they come with us. They pick out really ugly carpet color, but they're picking out carpet color. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're picking out the knobs. The girls are at every meeting for whether it's lawyers appointments, bank appointments, mortgage appointments. Our oldest is 3 and she loves signing paperwork. It's like a joke. She goes to the bank. She's like, can I have paper? Can I sign something? And I'm like, all right. Mm-hmm. I think you've purchased a mall in China somehow by accident. So the kids are involved. They need to know when they go to school, they're not just getting cut a check because they're our daughters. Like, that's not a reason. It's not free money. They need to have a sense of value of money and where it's come from. Mm-hmm. The oldest knows she has a home. She has a nickname for all the rental units. And she goes and participates at the house, whether it's cleaning up the properties for the next tenant. They go clean windows. They clean the floors. Right. Whether she's weeding or taking care of the pruning, obviously removing the branches. We don't give a 3-year-old like clippers. They have to be active participating. It is a family business. When we say it's a family business, we mean it. Everybody participates. Everybody's learning that it's not just 9 to 5 jobs are an option. School's not going to teach them any of this. They're not going to teach them to think like an entrepreneur. They're not going to teach them about mortgages. So they need to be in this culture early. This is when they're learning, is when they're this young.
Yeah, no, we want to teach them the whole concept that you have to learn how to build assets. I mean, to go to work, I mean, and do what my parents did. A lot of people quote my grandparents did this, my parents did this, but you know what? The same rules don't apply anymore because wages have kept nowhere near the pace of inflation of actual commodities and real estate. So if they're going to succeed, they need to know the value of real estate. Not that we want to shove it down their throat and say, okay, this is your purpose. No,
we're not forcing them to
we're not
take
forcing
over
them to do
the
it.
business.
What we do want to do is teach work ethic, but teach them that instead of, if you want to get ahead and all you're going to do is trade your time for money, you're never going to be free. Like I'll be on the road, I'll work, I work in HVAC. It's long, hard work. Yes, it is fair income, but it's tough work. And if you want that
options.
freedom, you can't do what I do and expect to get ahead. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this now. I look at our portfolio, the way it's growing. I could never, ever, the amount of money in equity that we've made, it would take a lifetime to work that just after we paid everything else and saved it. And we'd always be working. We'd always be exchanging time. I get home, I'm exhausted. I'm working with my body. I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life. So we want to teach our kids there is a way out. You can do real estate, but we want them to grasp the concepts of real estate that you're building something. You can use real estate as merely a tool. You don't need to love. Jen, you didn't love real estate. It's more my passion. I like the business components of it. I like the people. I like the challenge. You're a little bit more passive. You're getting more on board because you're seeing, I think, would it be safe to say, you're seeing the value and the power
I love what real estate does
the
for
passive
the
income
family.
component. Exactly.
Yes.
So to teach them that concept of what it can do for you, you could apply that to any business. Maybe you apply those same concepts. Most business and concepts and the fundamentals are the same. If you understand marketing, sales, people are a huge asset to us. Leveraging the banks, forming relationships, raising capital, all of these things are valuable skills to learn. So if they see this along the way, our kids are going to learn valuable tools. And maybe they do want to do something different. But there's nothing, for me, I see all of these people that, they went to school for their passions, and I see them, I meet them at work, you meet them, and they're not doing their passion. When I ask them why, it's all the same thing. Well, if I just work at my job for another 20 years, I'll get my full pension. Or, they're in their 40s. I'm too old to go back and do what I really love to do. But if you had real estate producing the income, maybe that might be the difference between you working the job that you love, not for money, but doing it out of passion, because you can actually use real estate to support you. You can't do what you love to do if it doesn't support a family, because desperation is going to kick in. You're going to revert back to just the conventional way of working for somebody else. So we want to teach them the whole concept of what we're doing, and they can go. And this isn't going to be like we raise all this money and when you say buy them a house and here you go, don't, go. It's going to be tough. They're going to have to teach them, because when they get older, they're going to see the back end of our results likely. Yeah. We'll be very, very well off. The last thing I want them to think is that, hey, you know what? All of this just happens and it's there and it appears.
We got lucky.
Right? So they're going to have to work, but we're not just going to teach them how to work hard. We're going to teach them how to work smart, how to provide value, how to innovate, how to find ideas, how to solve a problem, how to take, pain points away, how to better people's lives. If you understand those concepts, you can take that business and you can run with it. That's what we want to teach them. And they're going to have to go out and work for that too. We'll support them, but if they want a house, if they want a car, they're going to have to prove that they can do it too. So the best thing we believe we can give them isn't money. I think that completely, if you ask me, ruins people's lives and takes away all of their drive if you give people money. When people buy kids cars because, wow, they graduated. We need to teach our kids concepts. We need to teach them a totally different way of thinking, and teach them on a reward basis that when you put in X, you get Y out, right? So that's
only going to come from a family environment. Schools don't teach that. Programs don't teach us. Even then, it's like we're 1% that think like this. So
right.
It is. Well, we call ourselves, when we go to these mastermind, these networking groups, we call ourselves really the 1%. And it doesn't really, wealth is really a result of that. Money is a result of that. But we sit in these conversations, and my goodness, the way people think, and how we teach our kids about money, that's going to constantly change. And what I'm talking about now, a year later, is going to be different as I learn more about myself and what's possible. But you surround yourself with people like this, and we call ourselves almost like the 1%, because most of society are consumers. They want bigger house, fancier cars, and they look really, really wealthy on the outside, but inside, everybody's completely broken. Half of society really lives to paycheck. So for us, that's not acceptable. We want a more abundant way of living, but we have to find a way to teach our kids, get there properly and learn how to do it smart and safely.
Yeah. And with integrity.
With integrity, right?
Yeah, and throughout the last couple minutes, you mentioned the importance of relationships. So building relationships. How do you find that helps you in your business, not just in terms of maybe the relationships you have with your tenants, but also the relationships that you're building by going to these real estate investment events and meeting all these different people?
From my point of view, that I really enjoyed getting into networking, just because when I first talked to Mike, I thought he was honestly crazy. He was going on about all these numbers and concepts, and I had never been exposed to this in my life. And I was like, there's no way. You're drinking some weird Kool-Aid. And I felt we were really isolated because all of our family, all our friends were like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. So when we decided to start networking, going to different networking groups and clubs and things like that, it was the first time I didn't feel like we were crazy. It was the first time that people were really supportive of what we were doing, and just to feel that kind of love and support, it was really surprising. And it was providing me an environment where I was like, I can grow in this. It took me a while to figure out how to network, and something that was still true to who I was, because like Mike was saying, I was not always the biggest fan of real estate. It took me a little longer to get on board. So to find my place in a room with people who were just like brimming with knowledge and excitement, it took me a little bit longer. But it was nice to be, like I said, around people that I was like, we can do this. Other people are doing this. Like I said, it doesn't make me feel like we're outcasts or the crazy ones anymore. And that's been pivotal, especially just being a woman, being able to call another mom who's in and be like, how are you doing mortgage phone calls? Because I'm hiding in a shower right now and locked my kids outside. Being able to bounce ideas off of other people who are in the same situation makes me feel like I can get through it. And it's a lot of pressure because we're married. So that means we are only each other's outlets. Where he comes home, has a new concept, new idea, and wants to talk about mortgages, I'm the only person he can talk to continuously, all the time, till midnight, every night. And so it does put a strain because we're married. You're bringing your business home with you to a degree. And so at least networking was wonderful because it gave Mike an outlet to go talk to other people that share his passion, that shares his enthusiasm, that he can call and talk to. So it kind of gave me a break too, which made our relationship and I guess also my relationship with real estate, because become really resentful for it if I have to listen to it 24 hours a day nonstop.
Well, it's not that way anymore. Now we're focused.
But that's what I'm saying, because now we started, but now because we started networking, I'm allowed to actually like real estate, and I also can see it because I'm not engulfed by it all the time. So networking was really good from our partner relationship as well at home.
For sure. And why did you choose to go with pre-construction as opposed to other styles like flipping or buy, fix, refinance or whatever else?
I can answer that. I mean, for us, new construction, the way we started, it worked. We didn't have the plan that we did today to keep doing it. I mean, I'll be honest, when I did this, I thought, and this is before networking, and this is before when it was all just weird, and all of a sudden you're looked at like you're crazy for buying a couple of properties, when Jen just got pregnant after we bought our first purpose-built in 2014. So after that goal, we realized, hey, you know what, this works, and something's working. So we sort of looked back and said, okay, well, the numbers at that time just worked in our area to debt cover and just cash flow, but the numbers worked with 20% in, right? It doesn't do that anymore in Milton. Now you have to think about more creative ways in the same area. But I always say with real estate now, looking back from where we came from, we're doing this, and that's our brand. We're doing this to align with our goals. We're buying new builds because it serves what we want. I mean, we can still travel. We don't have a ton of maintenance.
You have great tenants.
Well, yeah, the tenants, I mean, it attracts AAA tenants, and you got to remember these are new properties. These aren't purpose-built. I mean, it's not like an apartment building. We've got great tenants. So for us, Jen doesn't want to be through the day. I'm working. Jen doesn't want to be dealing with evicting tenants.
I deal with 2 babies at home. I don't need any more babies to deal with. Yeah.
These are new properties, so we can defer an entire maintenance budget and capital expense budget to the point where the maintenance is very, very little. And the last thing I want to be doing is fixing toilets and dealing with old properties that are run down. Even if that means me, running around doing all these things, the last thing I want is a second job when I get home. So these properties, once we have the systems in place, once we have an actual, once we actually got our business plan in place, it's more or less hands off when everything runs smoothly, when you pick the proper tenants, when you have the right mortgage in place, when you're in the right area, everything works very, very well for these, right? Mm-hmm. And the reason why we bought new build too, one of the tricks is you can put money down and basically defer your closing. So the last, I think 4 we bought, what we did is we bought them and we had no means to close on these properties. I mean, personal finances, credibility, money. I mean, these are all limited resources, right? So what we would do is we'd say, okay, look, the closings are anywhere from 6 months to 18 months out. So we could buy a property with about 10% in. It was about 40,000 at the time. Okay. Come up with that whichever way you could. Wait that year and a half, and then close on it. But you've got a big window of opportunity working with the banks, working with brokers to say, okay, what do I need from now until then to close on these properties? So that gave us the ability to put down the money, the property right up on the market the whole time at whatever the typical inflation rate was in the area. And then what's good too is that you're also walking it instant equity. So when you buy it on spec like that and you have a year and a half out, remember most of the competition that you're competing with to buy the homes, I'd say about 95% of them are homeowners, right? So what do they have to do to attract homeowners? Well, they have to reduce the price. And so they have to give you a deep discount because no homeowner, very, very few people want to say, okay, I'll put money down and then wait a year and a half to close. For homeowners, they're competing with the resale market. So we would come in and say, okay, great. We can do this. We can put the money down. So what they would have to do is they'd have to discount the price. So right away, as soon as we put 40 down, they're usually roughly when we bought them about $50,000 under what resale value would be. Mm-hmm. So we'd put down money, we'd walk into instant equity, we'd wait a year and a half, and then it'd be worth even more. But you got to be careful. A lot of people think this is speculating. It's not speculating because we're not buying these and saying, okay, we're going to wait 3 years and then flip them or sell them. That's just pure speculation. When we buy these properties, we're buying them as if the price stays the same. They debt cover. I mean, cash flow isn't really our target. They debt cover, and that's it on day one with the current mortgage rates, with interest rates that we run higher. So when they do come out and interest rates have gone up, if they do go up, and when rent has gone up, that's just gravy. But there is that room where if things go backwards, we still have a window, a bubble to work with to say what's the worst case that could happen. You have to have a contingency in place.
Also, your end user is a home buyer. So when we first got started, it was one of those, well, what happens if, it's all those fears that you always have in your first, second one. Mm-hmm. So we thought, well, if we buy a new build, we could always sell it to a home user, and especially in Milton, they'll sell within 2 days. Mm-hmm. So they were easy to offload if we had to. So that gave you a bit of a security blanket too, picking new builds. For sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're also looking at too a big misconception that people think. I mean, everybody, people reach out to us, people call us, people contact us, and the first thing almost all investors say is, "I'm looking for cash flow." Or they'll say, well, what's the cap rate? Well, I mean, cap rate, it's not even a term we really use in our properties, right? We use the debt coverage ratio. Banks respectively, they have their own criteria of what they'll lend on. But what we're looking at too, if you take away the cash flow, all of these, they've got a debt cover. So when we factor in mortgage, when we factor in insurance, property tax, it's got to cover that and then some. But we're not looking for large amounts of cash flow on these because I'll give up a couple $100 in cash flow to have something close by, to have all the things we mentioned, to have A-class tenants, to have a perfect property I can offload for security. I'll give that up. But when you factor in the overall return, so when we buy property, we'll look at the overall return. We're putting out, say, $100,000 on average. What are we getting back? Okay. And we look at the cash on cash return. So what we're looking at too is so if we take away cash flow, we're looking at capital appreciation, and then you have to look at mortgage pay down too. So when we factor in those two elements and we look at, what the current values are, and then we look at what we put down, the capital, the return on investment is tremendous. So that chunk of equity, I'll take that over cash. I've got my job we're not living off of these yet. Remember our means, we align these according to our means. So we've got a lot of equity and we're keeping these as a foundation. This strategy for us works now. It's
because we have young children.
Because we have young children. This isn't a black and white strategy. This is gonna as our needs change, as our experience grows, as I start to scale back from my own job, which I can do now, we're gonna start we're gonna evolve into different strategies, right? And we're gonna take that on as our needs change. But right now, we don't want to overload ourselves because our priority is our family. It's traveling, it's spending time with our kids. We're using real estate to do more of that, and we're looking at the overall wealth creation. For us, it's wealth creation. It's not so much cash flow. That will come in the future, but that'll come when we decide to go in that direction. Or it could be flipping. It could be assigning. There's many, many different ways to make an income as I scale back in my job.
And so you just mentioned traveling. Can you talk a bit about that? How often do you travel? You mentioned Africa, Greece. Do you
Portugal, Germany. Yeah.
Are you
South
going on
America,
multiple trips a
Costa
year
Rica.
and you're taking the girls with you? Is that sort of where you're at right now?
Yeah, so I have a massive travel bug. So right now, since we got married, we typically do 2 European countries a year, and then somewhere in Canada. We usually go out east to visit family. And so when we had the kids, I refused to give up travel. That's one of the things I told Mike. I said, if real estate gets in the way of travel, I'm dumping it. And so when we had the kids, our concept is kids have to join your life. You can't revolve your entire life around the kids. They have to be a part of your family, a part of your life. And our lifestyle is traveling. So as soon as they were 4 months, they're on airplanes with us. We put them in the backpacks. They go climbing mountains with us. They've traveled everywhere. They go on every single trip with us. And we typically go for about a month to each country at a time. Because I don't want to go for 1 week. You're not going to really get to see a culture, really experience the food, the people in 1 week. So we go for a month. And because we've started the kids traveling since they were so young, they don't know any difference. They love airplane rides. They have no problem sleeping in different rooms all the time. Even just the concept of meeting different people, different cultures, trying different foods. Yes, they may not remember the trips, but it's changing and impacting who they are and how they view the world and things like that. So this is pretty much the big reason why I want to do real estate, is because now it's allowing Mike to take time off his work. So we can travel as a family for months at a time. We just literally, I think for 6 weeks out of those 5, we were in Vegas and Scotland. We just got back from Scotland.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, but that allows Mike time with his girls. I get to spend all day with them, but now he gets to go and spend every single day with them, and they get to know him better. He gets to see them as they're growing up. And this is why I'm doing real estate. It's to spend time with my family. It's to get Mike away from his job. And this is the entire outlook. And I love travel.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I mean, traveling, real estate, at the end of the day, it's about what you want to do. The last thing we want to do is, I mean, the last thing we want to do is say I've got a ton of properties, a ton of doors, but, I'm swamping my life with work just because I can say I've got a certain title or a certain amount of doors. I mean, that's really not why you do it. If you're just doing this for money, it's not a good enough reason. When I'm traveling, I feel alive. Like, I mean, traveling with the girls in our back, we're looking at each other thinking, this isn't...
We were climbing mountains in Scotland with babies on our back.
Yeah, this isn't
crazy.
just a vacation for us. This is our life. This is life. Vacation to me, retirement, I mean, I don't even like using those terms. I feel fully engaged. When I go there and I know, hey, you know what? I'm getting closer and closer and closer to freedom. I love it because going there isn't like these once in a lifetime things, going this travel. No, like for us, I mean, it's individual. It lights us up. Because it's like Jen said, we get to spend time with the girls. We're in different places. We get adventure from that. The people, the food, the surroundings, the scenery,
Especially
the history.
the food. I travel based
it's
on
awesome.
food.
Yeah, so you got to have reward. You can't, I mean, sure, we could come back and we could be doing deals and we could be saving money and all the traveling we've done. We could have bought more properties, right? But if you don't have anything, the fear drives me enough from just being in the middle class forever and, how I was raised. But at the same time, you have to have some honey to chase you. You got to have something pulling you along,
You have
right?
to enjoy
you
your
have to have
life.
something to
You have
inspire
one
you
life.
to, right? You got to live life now. And I mean, I see people there and it's sad, like the majority, 90% of them, they're all 65 plus. And I'm like, I'm so grateful the fact that we're doing this now.
Yeah.
If I didn't have the real estate and I just had a job to go back to limited vacation time, it would be a totally different experience. If I didn't have the confidence that, if something happens, if, I want to retire early, it's more life on my terms. I have that. I've got that nest egg working, and with the direction we're going in, this that's why I say it's not a vacation. This is going to be the reality. Do I want to travel the whole year? No, but I mean, it's having the freedom to have choice. That's the best feeling when you're there. To have unlimited choice, that's a pretty cool feeling when we're there. And one of the things we do, I realized it when it hit me, why real estate was going to work for us. It was, I think, 2 years ago in Italy. We were sitting on the balcony. That's just when you could take out your phone and start cashing checks with your phone. I brought my checks with me. I'm cashing them when we're on the balcony looking over this spectacular view of the beach and the mountains. And I realized, oh my God, I'm going to be going back to one check for my job, which I've always done. But the real estate, I'm doing basically almost, I think at the time it was 3 checks we brought, right? But as our portfolio grows, we can do this more and more and more and go further and further and further because the tenants don't care where you are in the country. As long as you're providing this clean, safe property, that's the whole point. You're providing them with an asset.
But that's
right?
also why you buy new builds.
You're
because
not
gonna get
trading
those
your
phone
time.
calls.
So you're doing what you want. You're providing them with a valuable product. And those checks are going to support you going wherever you want, as long as you want, provided you have enough, right?
So you're kind of talking about great experiences that you've recently had. What does the perfect life look like for you?
Never been in Canada in winter. I want to be retired. I want to be a snowbird, like now.
For me, the perfect life, I think it would have to be $100 million winning.
Oh my
No,
God.
it's not. You know what? It's not.
Buy
that.
your tickets.
Yeah, no. Buy lottery tickets every day, and that's my strategy. No, you know what? It's the perfect life for me. Oh my goodness. I mean, and that, you know, this will change, but it's. I always ask myself what brings me the most amount of joy, and you know that definition would have changed from when I was 21 and going on dates to, you know, and I bought my first car to, you know, to getting my first job and thinking that was the best thing because I've got this new thing going on. But now, you know what? It's the thing that makes me happiest now is my health. I mean, being healthy, being strong, always growing, focusing on health growth, not just
physically,
mentally and physically, being in shape, growing who we are as a couple, as a person. I think that's the best lifestyle. So many times in my life, I'd overwork, and you get lost in just being an employee, being a dad. You know, you get sort of carried away. I think for us, it's having a good sense of who you are, knowing how you're contributing to society, having your place, being able to give back. You know, seeing friends, seeing my family, having two girls that love you, right? Picking them up. I mean, that gives me so much joy. The fact that I've got two wonderful little girls and a wife that sincerely says I love you. I mean, those are the best things. I mean, it's so simple, but I always ask myself, you know, if I were to remove money or job titles or anything else, what is the most important? And for me, it's relationships. It's having those people that are going to be there right until the end.
Wow, mine sounds so shallow. I just want to live in Africa for 6 months out of the year.
All that too.
Africa's we talk about like our passions and stuff. Africa is my passion. That is my heart and soul. That is what makes me excited. And I have my master's in conservation and wildlife education. So I've spent 5 years going to Africa every year, working with orphan baboons, a little bit with the large cats like the lions, the cheetahs, and leopards as well. But most of it is the primates. And I had to stop when I had the babies, obviously. But as soon as those kids are old enough to go back to Africa, I want to take them back immediately. They need to see this. It's such a change of who you are as a person. It's like soul shattering. And I 100% would want to go back 6 months out of the year, take the family, live there. That would be my absolute dream.
And so traveling to Africa, does that give you a certain perspective and a certain feeling of being grateful towards having the life that you have now?
Oh yeah, there's no way. I've spent time in Africa, spent time in Indonesia, and living in a third world country. So many first world problems that we talk about that are so not problems. And you come back completely different every trip. I don't care how many times I've been to Africa or Indonesia. It changes you absolutely every single time you go, whether you speak to a certain person or you've worked with a different animal that time, or you've spent more time trekking through the jungle mountains. It changes who you are every single time. Even some basic stuff, you can come back and be like, we have too many lights in Canada. But these are things I want my kids to see. When the kids turn 12, I am shipping them all to a third world country, and they will live there for a month, because the first time they complain about not having the latest iPhone, off they go.
At 12 years old?
You should hear what the kids are doing. Like, I'm nipping this in the bud. I need parenting to be easy. You can make parenting easy or hard. I want to go the easy route. And the kids need to see what hard work is, to see the other side, that you are so blessed to be born in Canada. You didn't do anything to deserve this. You were just simply born in a great country. So I think a lot of this travel, especially going to like Africa and Indonesia, you see how everybody lives, and everybody is, the sense of community out there is incredible. Everybody is so loving and welcoming. But then you come home, and we're so grateful that we do have these opportunities to buy more properties. And that's a big thing with as many properties we buy. I always have to get back to Africa and I call them my first babies. I raised 6 baboons. So those are like my first kids. Those are my tailed kids, and I have my tailless children at home. So having real estate allows me to give back more. I can be more generous with money. I'll be more generous with time, because I can stay longer. I can bring Mike and 2 little helpers with me each time. So these kind of things are funneling my true passion, my true excitement for stuff. So
what I find when we get back from these countries, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean Africa, but we take it for granted because we see that everything we have here is made for us. Like, I mean, computers, roads, I mean, stores, security, police, military, all of these things are in place for us to succeed. And when you go to Africa, if a road fell apart, there wouldn't be money to fix it. It would just be, you'd either have to drive around, you'd have to get out and walk, or you just have to turn around, right? So you don't have road maintenance. You don't have the things we do. You can't just open up the refrigerator. Like, my God, like after you come back, opening up the fridge and taking out food and turning on the water.
You get one chicken a month in Indonesia, split amongst 4 people.
You turn on the water in our taps, and we have instant water there to take a shower.
Hot water.
To wash your car, right? All of these things.
Luxuries.
I could go on and on, but we take it so for granted that for me, when I come back, I'm so much more humbled and I'm so much more grateful for everything we do have. So my excuses for not getting ahead, I mean, these people live on maybe a couple of Canadian dollars a day on so little. So when we come back here and I see the opportunities, the technology we have, the people, the contacts, like what we're doing now is sharing information. I mean, getting together and just driving down the street without any fear and, taking care of and leveraging everything. We have it so good here. I have no excuses. And, you forget that when you don't go to these countries for a while, but when you get into the really poor parts, that's been the biggest growth for me, because I have no excuses not to achieve what I want. There's people here to help us. There's resources to do whatever you want. So when I look back, if I don't do this and if I don't do something really big to make a difference in society, or share my knowledge with somebody, or change other people's lives, or change my family's life at least, I don't want to look back and say I could have done this and then, have all this traveling under my belt and look at the pictures and say, oh my goodness, I had everything right in front of me, but I never took action. I never even tried. I never did it. And it's beyond what we do, when we get back here. It's not so much about us, but it's about our family too. It's about, learning this, but now there's more people coming to us. So I come here and we can come back and share, what we've learned the way we are now, and then share what we've done to maybe inspire other people. If that can change somebody's life, if that makes one difference in somebody's life, I mean, in a sense, that's a purpose, right? Changing and helping others. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am right now if it wasn't for all the wonderful things and the ability to, record messages like this, write books, and have all this. I wouldn't be right now here where I am if it wasn't for other people doing the same things, because we live in a country like this and because we have the freedom to speak and share information. We all have almost, I'd say, equal ability to get ahead if we're willing to tap into enough resources and build the relationships we want. It's all right here in Canada. This is one of the best places and the best times to get ahead. There's no excuses. And if you don't believe it, go to these countries and see. My goodness. And then come back here. People that come here, first generation immigrants, I work beside them. They push so hard because they see what they can achieve with hard work, and they see the opportunities here, right? So it's an awesome experience for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a great perspective to have. Seems like you're both very grateful. You've had a lot of experience through traveling, and you bring that back with you. So that's definitely a really good thing. And I think that's going to help carry you through your careers here and just life in general. So just to kind of move forward into the next segment, I do a thing called the Random 5. I'm sure you probably noticed it from the last one. So I'm just going to ask totally random questions. If you feel uncomfortable answering them, just let me know. We'll skip to the next one.
No, bring it on. We're excited. Yeah.
Open book.
Challenge us. Sure.
Okay.
You're going to regret this question.
So the first one would be, what is the most influential book for you, for the two of you? You can answer individually.
I come from an English major background, so I know everyone's like, oh, it'd be a real estate book or something like that. But not going to lie, I have never read a real estate book. I will be the first to admit, I have never read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I can hear you all gasping in shock. It is on my goal list. I probably will read it at some point in the year. It's one of my things. I'm like, I probably should read it. Everybody else has. I love Shakespeare. Honestly, when I did my English major, I did every course on Shakespeare I possibly could take. I love his work. I love Old English. I love the language. I love hidden meanings and metaphors and all that foreshadowing. I love Shakespeare. I know, which is kind of weird to say in a real estate podcast, but
no, that's fine. It's not most influential real estate book, just book in general. How about you, Mike?
It's influential. Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, stereotype.
And that gave me that divide. If I didn't read that, that gave me the divide between being a consumer and being an investor. Good debt and bad debt. I mean, those four things right there in the whole cash flow quadrant to realize, what do you want to put the most amount of effort into? It really made me switch gears and think about why I was doing it and what I wanted to end up. If I was just going to be a consumer, I was always going to be working for a paycheck, and I was always going to just be getting by. But if I bought the assets, that really, really clarified and fortified everything for me. And the book that influenced me, I'd say another one where actually I remember I can get a measured return from that is Thomas J. Stanley, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. I read that, and I think the problem I got, the solution I got from that, and one of the biggest points I can take away from that book is when you go and you look at a job, you got to look for opportunities in the economy where other people are seeing problems. You have to see opportunity, right? And you have to fix that problem. And I remember doing that, and I applied that to my own job, and my income shot right up because now I was serving the company, actually solving problems and not just working for a check. So that was very influential.
Imagine where our business is going to go when I actually read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If I'm already there, I'm just going to be that much higher.
Yeah, so
Maybe you'll be buying double the number of
Oh yeah, I'll be
properties
like,
once you-
who buys 2 properties? We're buying 8 at a time. This is crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to regret making me read it.
All right, so next question. Who said I love you first?
Ah, I know the answer to this. Does Mike?
It was Jen.
Okay. You don't have to go into detail.
No. Who said it first?
No, I'm pretty sure it was you.
I said it in Afrikaans when he was sleeping first.
Oh,
but I
okay,
100%
okay.
made Mike say it out loud in English first.
You made him say it.
Well, you know, let's just leave some open air.
Yeah.
Silence. They got to feel the silence at some point. And you
No, I
chose
thought
it.
you said it, so I wanted to
No.
sort of, yeah, and then I sort of just rolled over and I was like, okay, I'll let you wait. because
No, that was the last I said, do you want to go? I said,
Oh, okay,
would
that
you
was
want to
for the
make this
relationship.
official?
Okay, make it official. Okay,
And you're
so I'm
like, yeah, and you're like, Savance, you just went to sleep. I was like, oh, cool. just-
okay, yeah. So
I'll
I'm
think
like,
about
I'm
it
gonna
all
turn
night.
around and give you a taste of your own courting process, right?
And
So,
see, that's why I made him say it
All
first.
right, so we'll just agree that both of you said it at the same time. That's fine. Okay, who's your favorite artist? Musical
Oh, musical
artist.
wise, art wise, I was like, that's a general question.
I couldn't say I have a particular artist. I mean, it's
Well, is there a song that you enjoy listening to?
Are
on
we
a
allowed to
regular
say
basis?
Backstreet Boys
Yeah.
and show that I'm an 80s child?
Oh, yeah. That's a 90s thing, I thought. But
Oh,
yeah.
no, they came in the 90s, and I was
Well,
born in
yeah.
the 80s.
I think is I mean the most memorable song that I had. I mean I when that brings me back to my time is I think it's When You Say Nothing at All by Alison Krauss. And I think is it Kevin Hines or Kevin Little. I remember listening to that song on a road trip, and that brought me right back. And it was meaningful enough where I remember in my first house, I remember I made this special evening and we danced. We
Yeah,
danced
that's our first
slow
dance.
song, right?
Yeah.
In my living room, and that probably when I hear that song, that's just all those memories just come back, right? And
Of me, not the road trip, right?
No, of you. Yeah.
The
Well,
random
it was
five-
meaningful.
Yeah.
The random 5 questions turn into like the wedding games,
Yeah,
when- When you
exactly.
ask these questions, who said I love you first, whatever.
See you sleeping on the couch tonight.
Okay, so what's your favorite podcast?
Here, I'll
I
go.
love Pat Flynn.
That's the Passive Income podcast.
Yeah, I love him. Just because like I'm surrounded by real estate all the time, whether it's our business or networking events and things like that. So I love to listen to somebody who's teaching me the same things,
Yeah.
but not using real estate as examples. Because sometimes you also know you need to be jarred sometimes when you're so in the same thought process, the same wave, and all of a sudden he's teaching me something new, but it's about cookbooks. And I'm like, oh, cookbooks. Oh, I kind of tune into that for a second. I'm like, wait, that's marketing I can use. Wait, these are good tips I can use actually. Yeah. So I love listening to him.
So I break it down basically, and there's a few different categories. I mean, to be real estate, there's breakthrough real estate, there's bigger pockets. I mean, there's a lot of great real estate stuff in there. But you also have to look at, okay, well, what's going to get you there? What's going to get you to invest? I mean, and it's not, I mean, the fundamentals are great, the strategies are great, but if you don't have the mindset for this stuff, you'll never be able to apply it. If you don't have the ability to think and listen, like I listen to an innovation podcast, because it doesn't apply to real estate, but gets me thinking in different directions. Sales and marketing, guys, we're all selling ourselves. Mm-hmm. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a real estate agent or a car salesman. We have to sell ourselves to our team members, to everybody else, to people to work with us, to joint venture partners. We're always thinking ahead. But I mean, so for that, I'll listen to, there's a few sales and marketing podcasts, a few different ones I listen to, but I also listen to Tony Robbins. I love the way he speaks. Yeah. He's definitely had a big impact on the way I handle certain situations and the meaning I make of certain problems. Like I'll walk into a problem now because of his podcast and say, you know what, this is happening not to me, but I'll say it's happening for me. Mm-hmm. I believe everything, we wouldn't be where we are now if it was just an easy skate in the park, right? Yeah. So I know that every challenge that's hit to me, I look at it, okay, what am I going to take away from this? What am I going to learn from this? How am I going to build myself stronger? Where am I going to look at where I went wrong so I can build myself up a lot stronger to tackle the next set of problems? And that's just shifted my mindset so much that I can be a lot stronger going forward with whatever we do.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Tony Robbins podcast is amazing. I listen to it all the time as well. All right, and last question. What's the one skill that you wish you had?
I don't know if it's a skill. I wish I had more natural excitement and passion for real estate. Which sounds, to be honest, we're going to be honest here. I I love the marketing stuff. I love the legal stuff. I love creating websites and business cards. And I love the concept of how do I brand something? How do I convince somebody to purchase what I have? I love that stuff. I love what real estate does. Do I love like being a landlord all the time? No. Do I love talking about real estate 24 hours a day? No. And I think sometimes it would be, at least from my point of view, easier to network or easier to participate if there was that natural excitement for it. Mm-hmm. Mike is like, I always joke, like Mike is 100% the engine of the car. He is just going 100 miles a minute and I'm the brakes. I'm kind of like, we should think about this, or I need to see some numbers, or what does the legal aspect say of this? Right. So, I mean, in the long run, it's actually worked out better for us because we both can't have the same strengths and weaknesses. Our business wouldn't be where it is today doing that. So in the way, I guess it's not a skill, but I wish I had a bit more natural excitement for it. I think it would make what we do a little easier sometimes for myself.
Yeah, I think for me, you know, there's different things. I mean, we got to admit, there's only a few things we're good at, and I mean, you got to really learn how to delegate the rest of the things to people that can do it so much better. I don't want to be a master at any one thing. I want to be running the business. I want to be growing the business. I want to be getting the best people in place to do what I'm not good at and master those skills, right? So I'd say one thing, if there was a skill that I could be better at, is, you know, I look at some of these guys the way they can sell. And I'd love to have those sales abilities where you can just read people and know exactly what they want. I think that's a total science, and I think that's something that I definitely want to work on and become a lot better at, and just finding what makes people tick, what makes some salespeople so successful over others, right? And I think that's an area that we all need. We all need to become better at sales, and that's an area I want to dive into in the near future.
Right. Well, I'm in sales. I'm a real estate agent, so I can say that having a quick conversation with you, I think you've got a lot of the skills already because you seem like a genuine person, and one of the keys to selling is connecting with people. So I feel that you'd be really good at that. There's no need to look into techniques and closing. And
you have to be authentic.
Exactly. Yeah. Be authentic and the sales will come. So I think you're already there.
That's good. It sounds like you guys hiring positions. Maybe I should start with a second career. No,
it's pretty hard to get in here.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. That's pretty much it. Jen and Mike, and we've got them from E01 Properties. Do you have any services that you offer? Is there any way that people can reach out to you and connect?
So we have a website. That would be my third child. It is E, so the word DOUBLE, properties.ca.
What services do you offer, if you do at all?
Oh, so right now we're starting a YouTube channel ourselves. We're just getting that off and running right now. We're kind of in the filming stages as well. So we're starting that. We're doing a lot of presentations at different networking groups. We're doing one tomorrow. So we like doing a lot of speaking events. We like to connect with a lot of the people. And like we said, we've been so blessed by other people helping us and teaching us along the way that we want to reciprocate the same thing. We'd love to go out and talk to people and encourage people. I especially love encouraging women, especially in real estate, or moms that are stay-at-home moms, be like, there's things to do other than Avon out there.
I encourage people to reach out to us because, you know what, I've made good connections from other podcasts we've done, from other interviews, from just networking, and people are valuable. I mean, you know, call us, connect with us. There's a lot of people out there who are going to be in the same situation that we were in. And you know what, I enjoy giving back. I enjoy helping people. I obviously can't work with everybody, but if you come and you have a lot of drive, a lot of passion for this, I mean, that's going to take you places, and we can perhaps work together. I can suggest different solutions, because a lot of people are usually so close to be able to get what they want in that first deal, but usually it's just they're missing a few key elements, or they just can't quite pull the puzzle together. So you know what, if I can bridge that gap, and if we can, you know, have a conversation, feel free to reach out to us and let us know if there's anything we can help you with.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great attitude to have. I really appreciate your time, and definitely we'll stay in touch. I'll see you at some of the upcoming events. So if anyone's interested in joining, you guys are part of the So Right Club.
Yep.
And a couple other ones. So maybe I'll post a link to that, and then people can meet you at those events as well.
Great.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Okay, so thanks a lot. And
okay, thank you for having us.